Hello everyone, I hope you're having a harmonious day because today is story time. I want to share with you what I call my spiritual awakening, which is a word I need to revisit, or a phrase I need to revisit. First, because we use the term awakening in so many ways. It depends on how we want to use it in the context and what it really is trying to show us that is happening in us. I would rather use the word breakthrough, because awakening at this point in my view of life, it's only one. So you go through a process of awakening and all those things that happen to you that make you walk that path of awakening or breakthroughs. So, but hey, in our colloquialism we use awakening, so it's a spiritual awakening, but mostly a spiritual breakthrough. Now, why was it spiritual for me? Because, like some of you know, for all my life I was not spiritual at all, and I just never had any interest in religion or spirituality in general, belief systems. Religion was science for me, or put it another way, my religion was science. I held that all those things were pseudoscience, all the things that people talked about. I was your classical guy that didn't believe in anything and would even mock sometimes certain beliefs because they were fantastic. They were just, things that people wanted to believe. That need for people to believe in fantasy, mysticism, and all that stuff, which is it's nonsense. So this was at the time where, let's go back to 2018, which is when I was fired from my job, and that really marked a huge shift in the way I wanted to keep living, because I had worked for over a decade non-stop, barely taking vacation, working 12-hour shifts, simply to just climb a sort of ladder of staying in a comfort zone within the American dream sort of thing. Having the house, having the car, having, extra money for a couple of things here and there. And that just seemed to come to an end for me, and I just wanted my life to change, and I really made that decision. I actually made the decision to get fired. I just didn't want to work there anymore, and my manager just called that up, and long story short, I got fired. So I got what I wanted. Then after that, I stayed for months planning my next move in life. What did I really want from life? And I started wanting to work with my passion at the time, which was bodybuilding. Coaching, nutrition actually was my biggest passion, and I knew I had to take a pay cut because I just couldn't earn as much money. But I did it anyway, and I started working with that. But I had a lot more time in my hands. I had mentally more space for me to simply be, and I could just relax and study and educate myself in the things I wanted to, and I just simply didn't have to go and punch a clock and be miserable like I was. So this was, like I would say, the beginning of the shift for me. And over time I just got more interested in the world and people outside, my house. Me and my brothers never get together, rarely do. And when I say sporadically, I mean sporadically, like years apart. And such event just came about in the same year, 2018. We were all coinciding in the same place. So we got together, and one of my brothers is a cannabis enthusiast, and he just loves the plant. So I've tried it before. I've smoked marijuana before, and it wasn't, you know, something that really caught me. It's a nice experience. It's a nice high, but it wasn't really my thing. So I'm saying this because my tolerance, as it were, was pretty low. And that night we decided, hey, let's celebrate with some cannabis. Well, needless to say that I took way more than I could possibly tolerate. And this really created an experience that night that was reality shattering to me. I simply didn't have an idea of time or space or history of myself. For about an hour, I was in this state of not knowing anything, not understanding life, not understanding who I was. I mean, this really shattered my way of seeing life, of seeing myself. And to me, that was just a really eye-opening experience. So after that, I don't know, something changed. And from there, I remember telling Julie, you know, you have to try this. I can't be the only one experiencing this. She wouldn't understand or believe it. And like me, she was not into cannabis, you know, that much. She had tried it in the past too, and her tolerance was even lower than mine. So we decided to do it again. And I mean, she had the same sort of experience. This is actually when she became vegan because of the experience. She had a sort of communication with the trees and the plants, and she decided that she wanted to learn more about veganism, which funny story, I had mentioned that I wanted to become vegetarian months ago, and she laughed at that, and she said, I cannot imagine myself not eating meat. And there she was, you know, a couple of months later, fully vegan because of this experience. Now, this also triggered her in her the curiosity to investigate more about plant medicine. Now, I wasn't too keen on the idea of keep doing, you know, what I would call at the time drugs. You know, drugs still had that dirty connotation, and you know, doing drugs is not good. But I had read in the past about psychedelics. Like, psychedelics were not what they were supposed to be by the mainstream media and academics and all this stuff. But I just wasn't interested. She was, on the other hand, and because anybody who knows us knows that whatever we do, we end up doing together. It's something that we just follow each other. And she got very interested, really interested. But to me, that was really far, because she was interested in this substance called ayahuasca. And at the time, I was just like, no, that's a foreign thing, you know, even if it is from my country and other countries, you know, from South America, it just seemed foreign to me. Something that was done, you know, in the jungle, and, you know, we had to travel for that. I don't know, the logistics just seemed too far off. And so I'm saying that this was within months. We end up meeting people who were coincidentally or synchronistically connected, you know, to somebody who could provide this experience to us. And so I felt kind of cornered now that Julie wanted to do it and I didn't want to do it. And she said, that's fine, you know, if you don't want to do it, I respect that, but I'm gonna do it. And I said, you know what, after a couple of days, of course, of deliberating with myself, I said, I'm gonna try it. You know, I'm just gonna do it because, you know, I'm not gonna forget myself to miss an experience like this. So let's just do it. I would say, you know, it's funny because people say that cannabis is the, or they used to say it's the portal for hard drugs. Like you would get into more, you know, heroin and crack and all these drugs that just destroy your life. So, you know, even for me, that was just like a challenge, you know, to go against my mentality of, you know, drugs are bad. But I had, I don't know, a sort of feeling that psychedelics were just not, you know, what they're being portrayed to be. And having the experience, of course, of reality shattering experience. Yeah, it was just something that really ignited my curiosity. So I decided, yeah, you know what, let's do it. So we ended up doing it on February 9th. And that's why you're watching this video today, or at least why I decided to post this video. I don't know when you're watching it. But we got together and we didn't do ayahuasca. We did a different mix of plants that contain DMT. And if you know anything about me, you know that I talk about DMT a lot because I think it's a molecule in our body that is associated with this type of mystical experience. So we did this experience with this ceremony, and everybody tells you, and you read and you watch videos, that you're going to get into a state where you're going to see sacred geometry, and you're going to see spirits, and you're going to see elves, and you're going to see all kinds of things, and you're going to feel the colors, you're going to taste the light, and you're going to, I don't know, just listen to the solids. You know, you're going to listen to the pyramid and the circle and stuff like that. It's just like your mind gets completely altered and you start feeling your consciousness in different ways. So I went in with all these expectations, and I was disappointed because I didn't perceive anything. When I tell you that my experience was just as null as possible, nothing, not even a flash of light, not even a color vibrating, nothing. Which I later understood that it was because I was so controlling of my mind. I wouldn't let go. I didn't surrender to the experience. And I was just there expecting something to happen. And nothing happened. But something funny happened, because Julie was next to me and she was having her experience. Suddenly she was laying down and she sits up, and the facilitators, they came around and to see if everything was okay, and Julie said, I'm feeling a presence. And this, I know this presence is a masculine presence and is here and it wants to talk to me. So they said, let it talk, see what it has to say. And then she turns around and looks at me with tears in her eyes, and she says, it's Mario. Mario was my friend from childhood who died in 2008 and who left a spiritual gash in my soul, because for years I couldn't cope with his death. He was my childhood friend who was like a brother to me, and I admire him, I followed him, I idolized him. So I actually put him in a pedestal for all my years, and when he died, that was another shattering experience of my life. I couldn't possibly imagine having more friends in my life. It was a really bad time. It's funny that 2008 was the year of the economic collapse. I started getting into conspiracy theories at the time, and it was just a dark time in my life. One of the things that I remember is that I used to say, if anything else exists out of this reality, then I want Mario to show me, because he was science oriented like me, probably more than I was. In fact, it was thanks to him that I was a science head. It was thanks to him that I learned all the things about science. And I remember saying that, and I would never have a dream or an apparition or nothing for years. We're talking about 10 years, 11 years. And suddenly Julie is saying this. Another interesting thing is that when you open a ceremony, a plant medicine ceremony, you create your intentions, or you set forth your intentions for the experience of what you're going to have and what you're expecting. And I didn't have any intentions. I couldn't think of anything. I mean, I had ideas of what I wanted, and I brought them to the ceremony. But in the end, I just said, which is fantastic, because all those intentions, I brought 3 intentions, I remember. I said, I want to know more about this reality. And I did learn about this reality, as you can see. I want to find my passion, which I found as well. And I want to use my passion to help others, because that's what I'm just compelled to do in life. When I was already working as a coach in nutrition and training, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people in nutrition mainly. And if I could use my passion to help people, I didn't even know what I want back then. I didn't even know I was going to start writing, then recording audios, then finally making a YouTube channel, and so on. So that was my intention. So all those 3 intentions actually came about and developed, unfold over time. I didn't realize until it was like the end of the year, and I realized that all of these things naturally happened because I didn't put any effort into it. They just simply synchronistically started unfolding. But anyhow, through my intentions, and this is all important for the story, because you'll see something that was the coolest thing that ever happened. And I don't think I'll ever have a synchronicity like this in my life. Now, bear in mind that I'm this, strong-minded individual who is skeptic, but is just willing to give it a try. And I said at the beginning of the ceremony, you know what? I don't have guides, I don't have angels, I don't have ancestors that I knew about. So if anybody can guide my experience, I want Mario to be the one. I didn't believe that Mario existed, after death. But since I was already getting involved in all of this, I said, why not? Let me have fun. So, of course, you can see how my skepticism could kick in and say, well, Julie is having this experience because she knows that I wanted Mario to be here. But then things started to add to the synchronicities where you can't explain. The things that Julie started saying to me were quite personal. And there were other things that were flowing in the moment that I just couldn't explain, that didn't make sense at all. I couldn't connect them. So I got the message from Mario. It was like a very intense moment. I remember crying and releasing him. I had a huge release and I said, just go, you know, I'm not attached to you anymore. I kind of released him that night. And after that, when I tell you that throughout the night, synchronicity started happening in ways that I couldn't connect them. From music, colors, phrases that the facilitators said that had no way to connect with my own psyche, my memories, my mind, what Julie told me, and other things. I mean, I'm telling you that throughout the night, my skepticism was at its highest, meaning that I would challenge everything, I would question everything, but I just couldn't find answers. So throughout this night, I just kind of surrendered, and I said, you know, something's happening that I cannot explain, and I just need to let go. You know, I'm just gonna surrender to it. However, the next day, I'm still sort of skeptic about the whole thing and saying like, okay, maybe it was just part of the whole experience, even though I didn't feel anything. And, you know, somehow all happened the way it did, and I'm suggesting all of this to myself. Then I got the biggest synchronicity possible for me. It's important to mention that during the ceremony, you shut off your phone. You don't want any distractions. And when the ceremony was over, I turned it on, and I remember one of my friends, funny enough, the only friend I have in common with Mario, and like the three of us were friends, and he texted me that night some news, and I didn't care. I said, I'm not, you know, into news right now. I can't read the news. So I left it for the next day. This was February 10. I wake up and I say, you know what, let me check my messages. I know I didn't read this and that. And I checked the news that my friend sent me. Well, it so happened that on February 9th at 6:30 or 7, I forget, at night, at the same moment that I was setting up my intentions and calling Mario as my guide, a meteor fell or was seen over the city of Caracas and Valencia, which is the city in Venezuela where Mario died. And you can go check it out on the news. I'll probably leave something here because I think it's so cool. This was a meteor that was so bright that shone on the color that Mario was associated with, which was sort of like a green, a very bright green. And you can still, there are videos on YouTube you can go watch. I thought this was like so sacred and so amazing. I said, like, a meteor falling from the sky. At the same moment, I'm setting up my intentions for the plant ceremony. And over the skies of Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, where he died. Then afterwards, it was funny. I mean, this is just a nerd synchronicity here too, but we used to play this game, Warcraft, which is not World of Warcraft. Everybody, you know, that's watching this video and know World of Warcraft, it's not World of Warcraft, it's Warcraft 3, which is the sort of predecessor of World of Warcraft. And the reason why you see all this, there's a spiritual connection I have with all of this stuff that you see here, and you can probably make the connection now. Warcraft 3 was the game that me and him used to play together, and we have so many stories, but that same time was the announcement, and you can go watch this on the internet. They had just announced that they were remaking, because we know we're in the era of remaster, remaking, revisit, reforging was this case. They were remaking this game, and new graphics, whatever. It was a failure of a game. So it's a funny story behind the game, because it became like the most despised remaster game in history. But the cinematic that they use was, and you can go watch this in YouTube too, the cinematics that they use was the beginning, the intro of the game, which is sort of meteors falling from the sky, and they were green. So all these synchronicities just really, I mean, it sounds silly at this point because of my way of seeing life, but they just came to show me that there's something out there that I needed to explore. There's something outside. When I say out there, it's outside of my four walls, you know, my cube, my box where I used to live, and I had to go explore it. I was a very inquisitive person, still am. You know how thorough I try to be with the things that I learn and I teach and I show or express or share. And this really triggered that in me. The rest is story, probably for another day, because after that I decided to actually try ayahuasca, and I did. I did it once. That was enough for me. Then I did magic mushrooms. I also did it once, so to speak, because there was a ceremony where, again, nothing happened. And I just learned there that there was just a controlling issue I had with me. And this was all part of my research into plant medicine, what it really is. I studied plant medicine for like a year, because plant medicine was what caused this in me. And I said, I need to learn about this. I need to know exactly what happened to me. That's me. I can't help it. I need to find answer. So all of this was revealing to me, you know, that there was something else. And I wasn't satisfied with the stuff I watch in Gaia TV and reading articles and watching David Wilcock and Corey Good and all of this stuff. You know, it made sense. You know, I started getting into all of this ufologist and, you know, hidden history and so on. I mean, I can go on talking about this for hours, but the point is that this is what led me to the Law of One. Quite in fact, the Law of One came to me in the first months after my spiritual awakening, or my ceremony, in February 9th of 2019. But I just didn't pay attention to it because it seemed like something even more foreign to me. Channeling, ETs, what is that? Some extraterrestrials talking through somebody? I mean, that's not going to give me any answers. So I just put it on the side. I mean, I didn't reject it. I just put it like, okay, that's something else I need to get to. And it wasn't until like probably 5-6 months later that I decided to read it. And hey, the rest is story that you can actually see here on my channel. 2020 is when I decided to open this channel because of the Law of One, mainly. And the rest has been me getting into non-duality, the non-dual approach to life, to reality, beyond metaphysics, beyond the physical world, and into consciousness, beyond the mind even. What is the underlying faculty that fundamentally describes this reality? And so that led me obviously into Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism as a culture, and so on. And here I am. So, as you can see, one small breakthrough in my life led me to question my reality. I wasn't a stranger into questioning my reality, but my reality was physical. It was science, it was political and socio-economics, all of this. And like I said, I wasn't a stranger into questioning it, because once I learned truths about the government and the elite, the bank system, war, false flags, and all of this, I knew that there was much more into it. But that just leads to anxiety and fear, which is where you're geared towards, you know, as somebody who doesn't believe in spirituality or any sort of, you know, belief system. I learned that. I saw that thanks to the window that opened my box and allowed me to go outside to the infinite universe that exists of possibilities and spirituality, metaphysics in general. Yeah, my life just got, you know, infinitely broader. And because of that same mechanism in me of questioning everything, I continue to question it. I question everything that comes my way. This is why the Law of One seems to be the most robust philosophy of metaphysics. And it's not to say that it has all the answers, but it's probably the best way to describe this reality for those who are interested in metaphysics. And then came along Advaita, Non-Duality, which is the most robust way we have to explain the mind and consciousness. And the greatest thing is that it's not, you know, a set of dogmas or concepts, ideas that you need to learn. It's actually self-inquiry, which is the only way to do empirical work, to really discern axioms in your life. So anyhow, that's all I wanted to share, you know, how this all started, where I came from, and how somebody who was so strong-minded, I would say I was hermetic. It's funny, it's actually ironic that I used the word hermetic after getting into the Kybalion and Hermetic principles. But that's what it means, you know. Hermetic comes from Hermes, whose teachings were kept hermetic in the same way that the teachings of Hinduism, or Buddhism if you want to call it that, have been kept sort of hermetic over time, and they haven't changed. If anything, they have evolved. But that's a story for another day. The point is that somebody who was as hermetic as I was with my beliefs in reality can suddenly get a breakthrough where everything just completely shifts, you know. And hey, for what it's worth, here I am. That's all I have to share today. Thank you for listening to me, for listening to my little story about how I had my spiritual breakthrough, or awakening, if you want to call it, in which it's been a pleasure to be. And this channel has been a blessing for me to share my thoughts, share what I have, in the hopes that somebody else can get inspired also and question their reality, whether it be, you know, in the physical, because there's so much to question, or the metaphysical, which there's a lot to question. Everybody has a metaphysic. It doesn't matter, even if they are like me in the past and have some sort of science belief, that is their metaphysics. I'm sorry, we all have that. We all have this tendency to cling to some idea. As long as you have a mind, you are clinging to something. The question is, what is this something that you're clinging? And how do you question it? Self-inquiry is probably my best advice there. That's all I have to say. Like I said, thank you so much again for watching. I have nothing else to say, but I love you. Thanks. See you in the next video.